Over 100 years ago, Albert Einstein, a famous scientist, said that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, and he is right, and here's why. Imagine this, you can double your money every year. So you start off with $1, the next year it becomes $2, and then $4, alright? So by the end of 30 years, can you make a guess how much money would you have? How about 60 years? If you know the answer, leave it down in the comment section below. What is compound interest? Compound interest is basically having your money make money babies every year and have the money babies make more money babies every year. It's kind of like a snowball that's rolling and getting bigger and bigger. So you start a family of money babies making more money babies. So that's the idea of compound interest. Now the question is, can we actually do it in real life? So Anthony Robbins, one of the world's most popular, well-known and respected life coach, he recently did a research on the world's 50 or more than over 50 legendary investors, and he kind of interviewed them, did an in-depth research to kind of understand how do these people manage money and how do these people leverage the beauty of compound interest. Not only that, the world's best manager, Warren Buffett, says that the average Joe can do it as well. So it can be done. This is not a joke. Then now let's talk about what kind of returns can we expect as, common people. According to Warren Buffett and Anthony Robbins, if we put our money to invest passively inside the index fund, we can expect a return of about 7 to 10% throughout a long period of time, like a decade, couple of decades or so. In fact, the S&P 500 index has returned an average of 8% compounded throughout its time. So having an 8% compounded return would mean $1 would turn into $10 in about 30 years. But that's not when the real magic happens. You see, the thing about compound interest, just like that $1 game that I kind of did with you guys in the beginning, the magic doesn't happen in the front, it happens at the back. That's right. So from $1 to $10, it takes you 30 years. But what happens throughout the next 30 years? That $10 now becomes $100. That $1 would change and become $100 after 60 years. So this is not a scam, guys. Let it sink in. Can you imagine if you can transform every single one of your dollars into $100? How much money would you have right now? If you're having trouble believing me, I'm going to leave a calculator down in the description box below. Feel free to check out the website, play with the numbers, and find out for yourself if it's real or not. I have personally invested in index funds, and the kind of amount of dividends I get a year kind of pays for a few meals every year. In fact, I documented it down in another video, so do check it out after this video. Well, the thing is that everybody should and could, but it is very difficult emotionally. So the real emotional challenge of investing in index fund is biting the short-term pain so that you can achieve long-term gains. So the challenge here, this requires a huge amount of discipline, and here's why it really makes it so difficult. Let me just give you some examples so you can understand this a little bit better. So imagine you've saved up $1,000 through, working for a couple of months. Would you treat yourself to an overseas trip? How about buy yourself a new phone, a new laptop? Now, what happens to this temptation if your savings now become $30,000, and instead of having $1,000 a year saved up, you get $1,000 in dividends every year? That's right. Would you be tempted to spend $1,000? Now, can you imagine this $1,000 instead? Can you imagine you manage to hold off that temptation? You invest this $1,000 into the index fund, and now it grew. It became a $30,000 investment, and every year you're getting a nice, sweet dividend check of $1,000. Would you be a lot more tempted to spend that $1,000 now, since you know that the next year you're going to get the $1,000 back? Maybe treat yourself to a nice holiday in Bali, eat out, drink out, lots of things you can do with that $1,000 that you get every year. You get the idea, you're a smart person. So now you can see why it's so hard to have that emotional fortitude to kind of put the money aside and ignore and reinvest the dividends and keep it that way and reach like $1 million. But it can be done, folks. I am not kidding you, not bluffing you. If you are able to build up that discipline, build up that discipline, put the money aside, Trust me, all of us can be rich. So I'm not trying to sell you guys any get rich quick scheme, any sort of scam or things like that. It's very real, guys. This can be done. People have done it. Search YouTube. People have passively invested, and there'll be hundreds, if not thousands of people that have achieved a millionaire status. And they'll tell you they invested passively in an index fund. Trust me, I am not kidding. But the thing is, it's when I kind of learned this concept when I was 16, right? It gave me that financial confidence, like, because I come from a very, average family. Life was really difficult financially. I had to go through door to door, try to sell eggs because my family was bankrupt at a point in my life. So now I want to share with you guys, give you the gift of knowledge and that strong sense of financial security. I'm not trying to ask you to, buy anything from me, and all I ask in return is for you guys to hit the subscribe button, because I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. That's my goal, and I hope you guys can share these videos with your friend, because they'll achieve a strong sense of financial security once they understand the beauty of compound interest. In fact, I'm going to share with you guys, the mindset, like how these people like Warren Buffett or Anthony Robbins, how do they see money? They have a very particular way of thinking about money. So the idea is that you kind of need to reframe the way you think about money. When you visit Starbucks and you buy the Starbucks drink, you don't think of spending $6 today. You think and you remember that you're actually spending $60 in 30 years time, and more importantly, you're spending $600 in 60 years time. So if you can reframe the way you think into this kind of thinking, can you imagine a $5,000 premium gaming laptop? How much does it cost your future self? That's right. Yeah, do the math. It's crazy. So now every time you visit the supermarket, you look at all the groceries, the drinks, the chocolates. I don't want you to imagine its actual price tag. So every time you go to the supermarket and you buy something, imagine that you're charged its future price tag. That's right. The chocolate is no longer $1, it's $150. So the question is, how can you get started investing, right? So this video doesn't cover in enough depths of all the different traps, dangers of investing, like for example, paying too much in commission fees. I'm going to touch and go on them briefly, but I highly recommend go onto YouTube, go onto Google, do more research on how you can get all these things set up properly before you get started investing, alright? Because the last thing I want is for you to lose any money, really. So I'm not sponsored on anything. It's my goal to help you achieve as much as we can. So do take everything with a pinch of salt, do your own due diligence, because I can only tell you like a big picture of everything, and you need to kind of go into the depths if there are any other traps to look out for, alright? So I'm going to share with you guys my experience of finding the best investment account in Singapore, because I'm in Singapore, so that is my context. Do kind of understand your context might be different from mine. So if you're in the US, you probably have a lot of better deals. If you're in places like Myanmar, you probably don't have as good as an infrastructure as Singapore. So basically what you need to do is to open up a trading account with the brokerage firm and invest in the S&P 500 ETF ticker symbol. Or if you're in Singapore, the Singapore Index Fund is the STI, which stands for the Straits Time Index, and basically what it does is that it tracks the top 30 companies in Singapore, kind of like betting on, the best horses in Singapore. And that's pretty much why index, do well over the long term, because they bet on the best companies, kind of. So if you're like me in Singapore, you can open up a trading account with the banks, but I don't really recommend opening up an account with the banks, because the fees that they charge if you're trying to invest in the US stock market is a lot higher. In fact, what I recommend is to try to explore investing with Thinkorswim, because that's the brokerage that I use right now. It's significantly cheaper than the banks. It is very important that you do a thorough research to find out what is the cheapest brokerage firm around you, because the fees matter. You know why? Because they eat your money, babies. Plain and simple. So let me give you an example. Like for me, if I'm in Singapore, I'm going to buy the Singapore Index Fund, right? The STI. So if I were to buy one share of the STI, it's about $300, and the commission that the banks would charge me would be like $20. Whereas if I were to use like one of the regular savings plan. Like in Singapore, they have this thing called the regular savings plan with the banks, where they automatically deduct the money from your account and buy the index fund on a repeated regular basis. If I use that plan instead of manually buying myself, the commission that they charge me will not be like $20. Instead, they're going to charge me like 0.3% of the commission. That's like what? $1. So the commission that they charge me won't be anything near $20. In fact, for them to buy it for me on a regular basis, they would now reduce their commission from $20 to like $2.5. So that's crazy good deal, and that is why it is so important that you kind of check out, you know, the best deals around you. In fact, it is not a simple saving of $17.50 to me right now. It is a $1,000, $750 commission fee that I'm paying to the brokerage firm. That's how important it is. On top of that, they also help me invest my dividends back without charging extra fees. So that is an amazing feature that the banks are doing for me. So do check out what's the best deal. Like if you have deals that have auto investing, free commission trading, and make sure that they are reliable so that the brokerage firm doesn't really close down, because if they close down with all your money, then you lose your money, right? So that's really important. And another thing that's really important is when you're buying the actual index fund, because okay, so index fund is like a tracker of all the top companies. For example, the S&P 500, the top 500 US companies. You want to choose an index fund with the lowest management fees, because there are people behind management fund that invest this money for you and they charge a fee every year. But because index fund is a very automated process, they charge extremely low fees. So you want to make sure you're getting the best deals by checking out the cheapest index fund around you. So for example, there are like mutual funds that also invest in the index. So mutual funds typically charge significantly higher than ETFs. So ETFs is another kind of fund. Basically, ETFs charge significantly lower. So the kind of management fee that you're trying to aim for is anything less than 0.3% a year. That's right. If anything more than 0.3%, you really might want to check if you are investing into the right index fund. The cheapest that I know is try to go for, index fund ETFs. Usually this kind of investment products is significantly cheaper than the mutual fund kind. And Vanguard is one of the biggest index fund trackers throughout the world. You can find their company. I think the ticker symbol is like VOO in the US stock market. So do check that out. Exercise your own due diligence. They should be below 0.3%. I'm not entirely sure. So as always, be very careful with your money. But now you've been endowed with a direction. You now know how you can change and transform your $1 into like $100 over the long period of time. So as always, be very careful with your money, but once you get the system, kind of set up, you are done for life. That's right. You've been given the financial roadmap of how you can transform $1 into like $100, guys. This is magic. This is beautiful. This is power. So I want you guys to feel that confidence that one day, you're gonna be achieving so much. All you have to do is set aside like $1,000, keep it for a long enough of time, and this $1,000 is going to be like $1 million in the future, guys. This is crazy. This is epic, guys. This is good game. So can you save $1,000? That's a no-brainer. So of course, we want to make this a lot quicker. We don't want to wait like 60 years to get $1 million. We want to make that a lot quicker. So the goal, guys, is for us to be able to save a lot more money. And can you imagine how much easier it's going to be for us to make a lot of money now that we know we can make every single dollar into even not $100, $10. That's still a phenomenal amount of money, right? So can you imagine we actually covered a lot of things in this video. Give yourself a pat on the back. You stayed all the way to the end of this video. You gotta congratulate yourself. You've now unlocked a key to making a lot of money, guys. So now the question becomes, how do we even save enough money such that we can invest and grow our pot of gold? So I made a video of my 6 best tips on how do you save money as a millennial. So do check it out. It's probably somewhere here. Also, if you're struggling with student debt, student debt is a very big pain in the ass. If you're struggling with it, you're unable to pay it off quickly, I made a video on how you can quickly pay it off over here. So do check that out as well. And as always, be sure to subscribe to this video if you haven't already. Like this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Ciao, ciao!